Hello and welcome to the Election Corner on One Man Think Tank, and it is time for my January 2020 Senate election prediction for 2020. Yes, we are officially in the election year. So, as you can see, what I've done from last time is I've taken all of the safe seats. Whoops, forgot one. I've taken all of the safe seats and filled them in to save us the time of this seat is safe because. However, there are some slight changes I would like to make to this map. First off, Montana is now safe Republican. Let's face it, with the fact that John Tester's not running and has shown no interest in having any part of the Montana election, as well as the fact that the governor's race is looking more and more red, I don't see a way for the Democrats to salvage this currently. I think Montana is hard red, putting another one in the baseline for the Republicans. And there's another state which, for now, we're going to actually see a little bit of a flip here, because I'm going to say Kentucky is now solid red. Amy McGrath seems like a good challenger, but I feel at the end of the day she's going to be another Beto O'Rourke. She'll get close but not overtake. She'll overperform but won't be able to win. I think Bevin was Democrats' one chance to really take Kentucky for right now. Amy McGrath, for those of you who don't know, ran for the House seat in Kentucky in their 6th district, which is right over here. It's a rather rural district with some smaller cities. If you can win that, you need that district to win. She could not win the House seat in that race. If another candidate comes along, it's theirs. I will be willing to move things back to likely, but for now, Kentucky is safe. So, shall we begin moving on to the likelies then? Well, let's put a few more on the board for the Republican Party, shall we? Mississippi and Alabama. Mississippi will remain likely for the Republicans. Frankly, I want to move it to safe, but I haven't seen the polling to move it to safe just yet. Mississippi is an interesting race, where the Democrats have gone really close in the past three election cycles. 2 election cycles. But in the last presidential election, they weren't close at all. And for the last Senate race in the runoff, they got surprisingly close. For the governor's election, they got surprisingly close. So I could see if it's low turnout in Mississippi like it's been, with higher turnout of the Democratic voting base, I could see it flip. Hence, it remains likely for now, and there's polling to back it up. Meanwhile, in Alabama, this will be the first flip of the election, with Alabama flipping to the Republican side. Doug Jones made a good stand in 2017, and for many was the herald of the blue wave. However, him holding his seat, in my opinion, is highly unlikely. I won't put it as safe because I rarely consider flips safe. There's always room where an incumbent can wiggle out through surprise means. However, but I will say something else. This race is looking a lot more intense than people were expecting it to. I could see moving this into leans territory when we come closer to Election Day, so pay attention to Alabama. I think, right now, given the polling data we have, if it was a 1-to-1 matchup, it would still be likely as opposed to safe. And with that, those are actually both the only 2 seats I can call safe for the Republican Party. I would also like to compliment myself, ever so briefly, on completely forgetting that the Midwest Great Lakes area exists. These 2 areas are safe for the Democrats. My apologies. So now, with the 2 likely states in hand, and for the Republicans, they are now matching the Democrats, 45 to 45. So, do the Democrats have any likely seats? And they, in fact, do. They have 2. Colorado and Michigan. Colorado is likely because the incumbent is a Republican, Cory Gardner, and it looks like it's going to flip. I think if there wasn't an incumbent, it would be safe blue, but it's not. Cory Gardner's opponent, John Hickenlooper, very popular in the state, former governor. He's basically got this. If there were 2 states that could surprise me on election night, it would be Colorado and Alabama. completely flipping out of not flipping out of nowhere. That would shock me and throw my entire election prediction out the window. But for now, it seems to be a one-to-one trade. Alabama for Colorado, as the party trends seem to settle in some of these states. Well, except the South, they seem to be going through a pretty big change right now. Michigan, on the other hand, the most likely Republican opponent, John James, is mounting a good campaign against Gary Peters, the incumbent Democrat who is running a milk toast campaign, let's say, and is not and has moderate name recognition in the state. Let's be frank, even his name comes across as a tad uninspiring, with it being Gary Peters. Sounds a bit like an accountant. So he's running against this very energetic Republican, while he's going as sort of the steady as she goes Democrat, which is quite different than most of these other races. However, for now it's likely, and I think within the next 2 or 3 months this will probably flip to safe, given the fact that John James seems to be already petering out before the primaries have ended. But those are the likely seats for the Democrats. So 2 likelies for both parties, and then a bunch of safe seats. So right now, Democrats are going to most likely maintain where they're at currently. For those of you not as who aren't into politics as much, or don't watch or are new to these maps, essentially this is the most likely scenario right here. All of these will happen. This is not a good map for the Republicans. You don't want to be defending, and that's what they're doing. They are defending right now 8 seats. So this race could get close, and if the Democrats get a good enough push out, it could really cause the entire Senate to flip to a solid Democratic majority. Will that happen? Well, let's get into the minutia of the individual states. So, let's start with one I'm actually going to be changing my opinion on. Now, if you've watched my previous videos, you know I've marked Iowa as likely Republican. I've said Iowa is going more and more red. Well, given some polling that's come out recently, as well as raw numbers on voters in the state, the Democrats and Republicans have become more tied, and there's a lot of independent swing voters in there, as well as Joni Ernst's polling numbers and the fact she's started to be tied to Donald Trump. I'm moving Iowa from likely Republican to leans Republican, making the state more viable for the Democrats to have a chance of winning it. Another state that's moving from likely to leans is Kansas. Again, because of who they're running. Joni Ernst is unpopular in Iowa, but the potential candidate for Kansas is downright hated. Chris Kobach, the man who could not win the governorship in Kansas as a Republican, looks like he's going to win the Senate election now that, what's his name? Trump's guy isn't going to be running in there. His former, was he in charge of, I can't remember. It's completely escaped my mind. You'll have to forgive me. I'm recording this a tad late at night. But Trump's guy is not running. Pruitt, that's his name. Looks like Scott Pruitt's not running. So Chris Kobach is favored to win. Should Chris Kobach win the nomination, most likely he will split the ticket in Kansas, while the state will be heavily in favor for Donald Trump at the federal level for the presidential election. At the federal level for the Senate election, we could very easily see this state flip. And I think once the primary is over, this state will probably get closer, to the point on election day it could be tilt either way. Speaking of leans, we can't get to tilt just yet. Texas. I know there are people who are now saying, well, Texas is moving back into the likely category because, well, Beto's not running and it's not Ted Cruz. Frankly, John Cornyn is not that inspiring, and the fact that he is raising the alarm right now, and has been for the past couple of months, saying Texas is in danger when he has not done so before indicates to me there is a lot more going on in Texas than meets the eye. And the Republicans might have some stuff behind the scenes that's saying, this could be close. Not to mention, Beto O'Rourke is specifically targeting House districts in Texas to flip their state house. If you flip their state house, you have a good shot of flipping their Senate seat. Not to mention, their most likely candidate, MJ Hagar, they are looking good. And a successful flip in Texas is in the cards. It's not likely to happen right now, but it's definitely in the cards. So, with that, after having finished the leans category, the Republicans look a lot more sure on their majority. They're now up to 48, meaning they only need to hold 2 seats in the presidency, or 3 seats total, to retain control of the Senate. So, do the Democrats have any lean states? They have one, a single one, North Carolina. North Carolina has been going bluer and bluer over the election cycles, and has shown, especially in the midterms, a high level of Democratic turnout. The fact that some of their state house maps are getting redrawn, which will increase voter turnout, will also help them. And the fact their governor is also on the ballot, and their governor is likely to win, as in tilt, leans, likely, safe. If people turn out to support their governor, they're more likely to split the ticket for the senator as well. Not to mention, Tom Tillis isn't super inspiring or liked in his home state. He's not disliked, but he's not especially liked either. As such, I'm willing to put this state as leans to the Democratic Party. Once again, this is pending more polling, which could push it any direction. But that's also the only state that's leans for the Democrats. And as you can see, we are once again 48 to 48. However, the Republicans are holding by a much more fragile majority. If one of these states were to flip, it could very well cost them the Senate. Looking at you, Kansas. Now down to tilt. Let's start with Arizona. Arizona is a seat that's looking very, very hotly contested, especially after Kristen Sinema's win in 2018. The loser of that election, Martha McSally, is going up against, I believe Mark, I can't remember his name. I need to pull up these names before I start these at some point. But astronaut Mark, and he is beginning to pull away. He's not only Gabrielle Giffords' husband, who has a lot of name recognition in the state, he is proving to just be popular in his own right. While Martha McSally is looking, how can I put this, very white bread. Not a lot of Republicans like her, not a lot of Democrats like her, and and she could very well, it doesn't seem like she's going to have a tough primary, but her lack of, the fact she was appointed despite losing the election has put a bad taste in a lot of incumbents' mouths, apparently. As such, I'm willing to put Arizona as tilt Democrat right now. A minor flip for the party. A minor chance of losing for the Democratic Party. If they flip Arizona, I'm willing to say Arizona is purple now. It has taken the place of Colorado, like North Carolina is taking the place of Virginia. Now let's go to up to the northeast with Maine. We'll do Georgia last. Maine is going to be fascinating to watch to see the results of, because the state is blue. Right now, Susan Collins, the incumbent Republican, is the only Republican representing New England, not just Maine, New England at the federal level. With the addition of ranked choice voting, this could also start to scuttle her, as more people are willing to vote for third parties. That being said, and the fact, before I get to my that being said moment, there are also plenty of proof that she's feeling in danger. She's starting to come out and criticize McConnell over impeachment, the fact that there are polls coming out that are quite tense for her. However, there's one thing which has made my decision on which way I tilt the state, and that is the fact she's running. The reason I put tilt blue before was because she was very clear on, I haven't said if I'm running yet. She has made a definite stand. And that means whether it's 51 out of 100 times, she thinks she can win that state. And I am willing to go with their internals until we see something otherwise or strong polling in the other direction. As such, Maine is tilt Republican right now. And with that, we go down to Georgia. Georgia is fascinating for this election. It went from Democrats going, well, it'd be nice if we could win Georgia, but I'm not really putting it on the board, frankly, to we need to win Georgia. And there's been a renewed interest, given the fact there are 2 Senate races. So we have the incumbent in the main race, which is Perdue, and a completely open seat in the special election. So, who can win this is the question. Will Georgia be able to manifest the turnout required for the Democrats to win? Can Republicans suppress the vote enough? We need to stop treating this like it's a taboo topic. Republicans have admitted they are willing to suppress the vote. That is a factor in predicting elections. So, what do I think will happen? Well, Perdue has good name recognition in the state and a long history. His father was a senator, and he had good rep. Perdue has decent rep as well. As such, I'm willing to put Georgia's main election as leans Republican for right now. The reason for leans is due to how close the governor election was. I'm willing to bet that with Stacey Abrams out there campaigning, if the Democrats have a strong head at the top of the ticket, this seat could flip. The reason I didn't put it up before when I was doing the other seats is because we have to do Georgia's special election as well. And I'm going to tell you, that's not leans. It's actually tilt Republican. That's right. Right now I'm saying, compared to my last one, this is due to Maine flipping in my prediction from tilt Democrat to tilt Republican. Republicans will maintain the Senate in 2020. Georgia's special election is tilt right now because there's no strong Democratic backing in this special election. There's not a guy with big name recognition coming out, but also there's not one on the Republican side. If there was someone, even if they were just a Perdue level, I can't remember his first name, I'd put it up in leans too, but it's not. This is tilt. And what I can leave you with is the following. Democrats will gain in the 2020 election. The question is, how much will they gain? As you can see, the Republican lead is quite fragile. There are 6 seats up, which the Democrats could easily flip to their side. I could see Kansas being the reason why the Senate becomes at least 50-50. I could see Maine flipping, Texas, Iowa even, at this point. Georgia, and one last prediction for Georgia. If one of these seats flip, the other is highly likely to flip as well. I have trouble saying, well, one Georgia election is tilt Republican and one is tilt Democrat. In the age of straight ticket voting, I think it's going to be one or the other. And I think if the special election flips, the general election also could flip. And with that being said, if you enjoyed the video, please like it. If you want to express your opinion, ask some questions, or state what you think should be what I got wrong or got right in the comment section down below, feel free to leave a comment down there. If you want to see more content from this channel, make sure to subscribe and also click that notification bell. More content will be coming out on a regular basis. Otherwise, as always, have a wonderful day.